Can you survive the Purge on a boat? Absolutely. Actually, it depends. A lot of people rate boats as the number 2 place to wait out the Purge after Canada, but leaving the country to avoid that whole mess would make things too easy. So, for the sake of this analysis, let's just say the Purge is global. That means you can't drive up to Canada and return to America after the Purge is over because Canucks are purging Americans at the border. Or maybe Canada builds a wall to keep Americans out, which they definitely will if America gets to the point of viewing the Purge as a good thing. The southern border is also sealed because in the 5th Purge movie, we see that Trump finally built that big beautiful wall, so no big booty Latinas for you either. It's just big belly Texans and their AR-15s. In a situation like that, boats start looking very attractive, especially big frackin' yachts. But are they better than a house? That depends on how long the Purge lasts. So, let's use official Purge rules. First, we're only defending against Class 4 weapons, not missiles or anything overpowered like that. The Purge is also lasting only for 12 hours, not forever. Under official Purge rules, boats have a lot of advantages, but they have a couple of downsides. So let's examine the pros, the cons, and finally give a rating of just how good boats would be in a Purge. The first pro of a boat is simply the difficulty of accessing it. The most dangerous place during the Purge is any place with a lot of people, so you kinda have to stay away from densely populated areas like city centers, apartment buildings, and Bonnie Blue's bedroom. A boat can keep you away from all those places, unlike your house, which is right next to all other houses. And those houses are filled with people who might hate you because you played your music too loud that one Saturday or your dog pooped on their lawn. So putting distance between you and any potential haters is extremely important. This is where a boat can be useful. You're also harder to reach on a boat because purgers can walk through the streets to get to your house, but they cannot walk on water. The second pro of a boat is that, unlike a house, you can actually move a boat. So even if your ops figure out where you are, you can always move to a different location before they get there. Unlike on land, where you are restricted to a few roads that can be blocked, you can also move in any direction at sea. Nobody can really box you in. There are no traffic cameras or random doorbell cameras tracking your movements. It's just you and the fishies. Anybody trying to find you at sea will have a really hard time doing it. If you turn off your electronics and your lights, you're basically invisible in the night. Finding you would be like finding that proverbial needle in a haystack. And because the Purge is only 12 hours, you don't actually need a big boat. A big boat with lots of space for supplies and luxuries like TVs, beds, and tennis courts would definitely be nice to have, but certainly not necessary. You only need to survive one night, so any boat will do, even a one-man kayak. Once you're out in the water, you can just keep moving until morning while Purgers run mad in the streets. It's honestly quite comforting to think about. The third advantage boats have is that they can be very quiet. Sailboats make no noise because they rely on wind. Canoes and kayaks are also noiseless. Most boats still rely on engines, but you can always turn the engine off and drift along silently to avoid detection. Bigger boats like yachts don't even need to turn off the engines because the engine room is soundproofed. Add this silence to the fact that you're moving at night, and you see why boats are so overpowered in a Purge. The other pro of a boat is that in the event that the Purge doesn't stop as planned, you can easily escape. In a realistic scenario, people won't just stop purging at 7 a.m. on the dot. They'll probably keep going with a forever purge until a greater power stops them. We see this in the 5th Purge movie. People ignore official Purge rules and just keep going forever. If you hid in a house during the forever purge, oh, you're cooked. You're surrounded and trapped with nowhere to go. But if you're out at sea on a big boat with food and water, you're less vulnerable because you can just sail to another country. If the Purge is global, it's harder, but if you're on a big boat stocked with solar panels and a desalination plant, you can survive for over a year, assuming you have enough food, or if you can fish. The very real risk of Purge going wrong and turning into a forever Purge is probably why I would strongly consider a boat, but my bank account begs to differ. So on that note, why don't we take a look at the downsides of a boat and see if I can make myself feel better. So the first drawback is with the water itself. If you're in a river or small lake, the water's not going to be that dangerous, but on a large lake or out in the open ocean, waves will be a big problem. You might escape the Purge on land only to get purged by the sea. There are 3 solutions to this, but none are ideal. First, you can use an inflatable raft. It can't be sunk by the waves, but it can be deflated by a bullet. Second solution is to get a bigger boat. Those handle waves better than smaller boats, but they have the downside of being very expensive. The third solution is to stick to inland bodies of water like rivers and lakes. If you go out to sea, you'll have to stick close to the shore to avoid the worst of the waves. The downside of sticking close to shore is that people on land can still fracking shoot you, so the only good solution is to have a big boat. Small boats are just too vulnerable to both waves and enemies on land, but big boats also have their drawbacks. While a big boat can get away from land-based enemies out in the open sea and handle the waves relatively well, it can still be attacked by other boats and helicopters. If you can afford a boat big enough to sail the open ocean, you probably have enemies who can afford pretty similar big boats and also helicopters. Now, you can counter attacks from other boats by keeping a small army on board to fight off threats, but that introduces another problem. In a purge, numbers can be a wonderful tool. The more people you have, the easier it is to fight off attackers and survive. It's always better to have friends than to be alone, but numbers can also be a massive vulnerability for obvious reasons. This is a purge, all crime is legal, so your people can turn on each other at any time. You only need one guy to start a mutiny, and then boom, you've opened the windbag, everyone's dead. We've seen this in almost every Purge movie. You think you're safe, but then one of your guys betrays you, lets the enemy in, or somebody's cheating and the wife has been waiting patiently for Purge night so she can get her revenge. Doesn't actually take much for people to turn against each other these days. In the first Purge movie, the Sandin family thought they were cool with their neighbors, but the neighbors were secretly jealous because the Sandins had built an extension to their house. So they tried to get revenge on Purge night, and yeah, I mean, literally just that. It can be something as stupid dumb as that. Or it can just be a crazy guy who wants to see the world burn. Purge night is a perfect opportunity for that. We see this in the fourth Purge movie with the junkie who just attacks people for his own personal entertainment. So your big boat can be immune to all external threats, but unless you and everybody on board love each other very much, you might find yourself shooting at each other because one guy is jealous of another guy's haircut. Another downside of a boat is that it still cannot take that much damage. A house can take 100, even 1,000 bullets and still remain standing, reasonably safe, especially if it's made of brick or stone. But a boat will take 2 bullets and just start going down, man. If you can't patch the leak fast enough, you're gonna drown. And if you take more damage, the boat will be ruined. Now, before we get to the final rating, some of you might be wondering by the intro and thumbnail, what about a big-ass yacht? It's comfier, you get to have a great time, and seeing that it is the Purge, you can just steal one without repercussions, right? Well, sure, let's imagine that you got one of those 500-foot plus yachts. Roman Abramovich's 533-foot Eclipse is rumored to have an anti-missile defense system. Other yachts have bulletproof panic rooms, long-range acoustic devices that emit high-pitched noises that repel invaders, a green light dazzle gun to disorient attackers, and motion detectors on the decks. But no machine guns or anything like that. Sounds like paradise, right? Well, there's the downside. You're not the only one who wants it. This is one of the few cases where bigger isn't actually better. You do need a big boat to handle the waves, but bigger is only better up to a point. The limiting factor is people. The bigger the boat, the bigger the crew, and the bigger the crew, the likelier the conflict. A big boy yacht can require a crew of up to 50. You need those people both to keep the boat running, to scout for enemies, and to defend the yacht in case you're attacked. If you're alone on a big yacht, you can't actually control it. And even if you somehow could, you can't secure the whole yacht by yourself. Your enemies can easily sneak up on you and surprise you. You won't see them because you're on the opposite end of the boat, and once they're already on board, you're stuck fighting a hopeless 20v1. So, having a big enough crew helps you steer and defend the boat, as well as the defense mechanisms that come along with it. But every additional person is also a potential source of problems. I mean, the more people you have, the more likely it is that the two of them will start beefing, and the beef will spread. It's easy to maintain harmony with a group of like 10 to 15 people who all know each other, well, easier. But once you get to 50 or 100, oh yeah, that's a Mr. Beast video I don't want to be in. I mean, conflict is guaranteed at that point. Your boat is just a fancy apartment building in the water, and fancy stuff gets attention. Though, if I had to choose between going out during the Purge on a yacht with all my friends or locked up in separate apartments, I'm choosing the yacht. So, knowing all this, what rating would I give the boats out of 10? 1 meaning functionally useless, 5 meaning survival's a coin flip, and 10 meaning absolutely perfect. I'd give small boats a 6 because you're either risking getting shot at by someone on shore or you're risking the waves. Unless you're using them to travel to an island or an isolated area, you're better off boosting the defenses in your own home. Big boats with a nice crew and defensive weapons get an 8. I'd give them a perfect 10, but there's always a chance of the crew itself starting something. Big freckin' yachts get a 4 because crew problems are even more likely here. In the event a purge lasts longer than the official 12 hours, small boats would rapidly degrade to 2 because it's hard to live on them for too long. Big boats also get downgraded to a 6 because the longer you're out there in a high-stress situation, the more likely it is that you're going to have deadly conflicts on board. Big boy yachts get a 1 in the event of a prolonged purge because a big group of people in a confined space that long is definitely going to fall into infighting over a long enough time frame, especially if you add the stress of trying to survive the purge. Unless they're occupied by a group of Gandhis, then it gets an 8. But not Gandhi from Civ 5, he gets a 0. Now, I know what you're thinking. Could the Amish be a safe haven in case of an AI apocalypse? That's definitely what you're thinking about right now. If you want to find out, please click here to watch it, and as always, thank you for watching, my friend.